To say that the latest Disney production, Beauty and the Beast, is offering something brand new would be wide of the mark. A scholarly paper published last year presented phylogenetic analyses of famous folktales, assessed the posterior probability of ancestral states, and estimated that the origins of Beauty and the Beast date back to between 2,500 and 6,000 years ago. All of which means that Disney's costume designers had ample opportunity to prepare themselves, and no excuse for not getting that butter yellow ball gown just right. This year's version of the legend, directed by Bill Condon, is deeply in debt to Disney's previous effort, which came out in 1991 and became the first animated film to be nominated for Best Picture at the Oscars. Condon's movie is a live-action affair, stuffed with real actors, although in many cases the reality is stretched and squeezed beyond recognition. If you cast Ewan McGregor as Lumière, a manservant who has been transformed into a talking candelabra, and whom we don't see in the flesh heavily wigged until the final scene, how far have you actually strayed beyond the cartoon? Disney is set on submitting its famous features to this brand of reboot. We have already had The Jungle Book, and Dumbo awaits, but, given the congestion of special effects involved, the action is scarcely live. It's in limbo. The plot, like much of the dialogue, is preserved intact from 1991. Once again, we find the bookish Belle, Emma Watson, living in a village, worshipped by her father, Maurice, Kevin Kline, and wooed without cease or success by the vainglorious Gaston, Luke Evans. Maurice goes astray and arrives at a spellbound castle, where he warms his posterior probability against an open hearth. Having foolishly picked a rose, he is made captive by the beast, Dan Stevens, the monster formerly known as Prince. He owns the joint, and pines for the day when he will be sprung from his ugly-fying hex by the touch of love. Cue Belle, who turns up and takes her father's place. Also in residence, along with Lumière, are Cogsworth the Clock, Ian McKellen, Mrs. Potts the Teapot, Emma Thompson, and so forth. There are expanded roles for the wardrobe, Audra McDonald, and the flirtatious feather duster, Gugu Mbatha-Raw, whom Lumière likes to whisk off her feet. New to the game is a self-playing harpsichord, Stanley Tucci, who, in battle, fires his ivory keys like darts from a crossbow. Diversity reigns, and the finale puts a pair of waltzers into a same-sex clinch. Talk about a happy ending. In the meantime, something odd has happened to the music. In addition to the songs by Alan Menken and the late Howard Ashman, which were surgically implanted into the ears of children and their parents more than a quarter of a century ago, and which retain an indisputable charm, we are granted a smattering of many songs by Menken and Tim Rice, which seem to start awkwardly or to be sliced off in their prime, one to accompany a dance, for example, and another to be crooned by Maurice at his workbench. The Beast has a freshly minted lament, Forevermore, and his servants join forces 4 days in the Sunday. The hitch with these addenda is not their emotional gentility, which is a Disney staple, or Rice's lyrics, though Ashman's are still the snappier, but our growing sense that the narrative is being held up rather than advanced. Indeed, in one instance, it gets wound back, as Belle and the Beast are wafted by wizardry to a crumbling loft, which she suddenly serenades, "This is the Paris of my childhood." Quoi? If there's one thing we don't need here, it's a backstory. And, if there's one thing the movie does demand, it's a dose of pep and ginger in the heroine, plus an urge to pump up the volume. Emma Watson delivers her melodies purely, demurely, and cleanly on the note, like a chorister, but that is not enough. Heaven knows, Julie Andrews was equally sweet in The Sound of Music, but she could also let rip with I Have Confidence, arms flung wide, as if to confess that sweetness alone would get you nowhere. Belle, dissing the local meathead and straining at the leash of her environment, marked a leap in Disney, when the role was sung by Paige O'Hara, in 1991, and the oomph of her caroling signaled her intent. The voice, for Belle as well as for Fräulein Maria, is the character, and Watson, though she radiates a sane and freckled healthiness, is too weak in the pipes to grab you by the ears and make the film her own. Dan Stevens, dimly discernible under a hundredweight of pelt, has more luck. He lends a bite of urgency to his songs, and rarely skips a chance to claw at his plight, even risking a wry amusement. I had an expensive education, he says, on the threshold of his massive library. As if reading ever helped. What Stevens does, in other words, is refine the basic beastly idea, the boor whose heart is gentle with a glumly sophisticated wit. It's a daring move, yet it comes at a price. He's not scary. When Belle commands him, at their initial meeting, to come into the light, she hardly bothers to quake at what appears. I hope that I'm wrong, and that children rear back from this ogre as their grandparents did from the witch in Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. After all, if fear is easily mastered, without a struggle, then you have no fairy tale to speak of. Jean Cocteau knew as much, and that is why, in La Belle et la Bête, his 1946 remolding of the story, Belle admits, with a dreamy look, "I like being frightened." Something else clings to that unwithering movie, much as it hovers around the ancient myth, the scent of sex. Remember the fur throw that slides off the bed, the smoke that reeks from the beast after a kill, and his sublime observation to Belle, once her yearning has switched him back into a prince, "It's as though you missed my ugliness." The lady preferred the animal. Such thoughts are out of bounds, needless to say, in the Disney garden, where the rose of desire is definitely not for the plucking. Stevens's horns are no problem, horniness, no way. What the films provide, as compensation, is a banquet of the decent and the sumptuous, where filigrees of gold float through the air and land on the silk of a dress. You can see where the money went, $160 million of it, and try to calculate how many multiples of that sum Beauty and the Beast will yield. It feels both looser and beefier than the 1991 movie, running 45 minutes longer and lacking its compacted delights, and Condon cannot lay a paw on Cocteau. Still, the sheer dexterity is overwhelming, and only the sternest viewer will be able to resist the onslaught of such thoroughly marketed magic. Beauty and the Beast is delectably done. When it's over, though, and when the spell is snapped, it melts away, like cotton candy on the tongue.